Hey everyone, this is jewelry tutorial part 2 on making one type of charm, and you'll notice that my little spread here is much more of a mess than it was when I started the other tutorial. Okay, a couple things you're going to need for making charms that I didn't discuss yesterday is a clasp. This is a lobster type clasp, and it's a fairly large one, but they come in all different sizes and shapes and colors. You need, for a purse charm, you need some kind of a larger clasp, or it will not fit around the metal on your purse or into the planner or whatever. This is actually a medium one. It's going on a pocket letter. I have some larger ones that I like to use when I make them for purse charms. Okay, then yesterday I showed you how to do wrapped links. This is an example here of a wrapped link at the top. I wrapped it right onto the clasp so it's secure. A wrapped loop at the bottom, and then I did another wrapped loop, but I had to wrap it right onto this. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. And then I wrapped the bottom, but I put the chain on before I wrapped it and closed it. So there's the start of a planner charm. So one of the things I didn't also mention is you need some kind of chain. There's a lot of different ways to do these. This is one way that I do. I'm going to show you another purse charm that actually was made by Misty Blackburn. And if I can, the angel's not actually part of it, and you can see the clasp is here. Maybe you can't see. The clasp is here, and then basically she's put the chain split in half and then has a whole lot of dangles off the chain, and that makes it like a two-layered. It's very lovely. I love that technique. Also, it's more fluid than mine probably will be today. And then what I like to do is have a larger type charm at the bottom, so I'm kind of leaning towards maybe something like this hanging off the bottom. I'm not positive yet. I design as I go kind of thing, and if it doesn't look right, I take it off, or I do it over again, blah blah blah, and it takes me a while to do charms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one or two charms wrapped onto the chain, and to show you how I do it, and then I'm going to stop the video because it'll just be a long time. And then when I get it down to the bottom, and actually I lie, I'm going to start at the bottom because it's easier to work from bottom up, because it just is. Trust me on that. As it gets fuller, it gets harder to work, and if you're constantly having to push the beads up out of the way to get to the bottom, it's a little harder. Plus it adds a little weight at the bottom. So I have to make a decision. In fact, I'll just show you that one. I think I'm going to do a double. This is going to be a little bit of a long bead dangle, but I'm going to use this flower bead I got at Joann's. It's like a white center with a clear floral, and you really can't see it well in this light. So I'm going to use wire for that, because I need it to, I'm going to have that above this, with this dangling loose off the bottom of it, and this hooked to the chain. Okay, so one sec. The other thing we have to consider is bead caps and things. I have, if you'll notice on my mat, I have a lot of other things. I have all different kinds of beads laying out here, a mixture of colors. This is my design incentive, these colors. So we have some light pink, some white, some black, some bling, some light green, and so forth, and dark pink. So those are what I'm trying to match up to as best I can. I have some of these little rhinestone rondelles. I love these little rhinestone rondelles. They're kind of hard to find, and they can be pricey if you buy them with Swarovski crystal in, so I tend not to do that except for higher end jewelry. I have some tiny little bead caps, which I love. Those actually I got in a bargain bead box at some point last year, I think. These are some other tiny little bead caps which I love. Then I have these little flowers. These are actually beads, bead dangles or chain link charms. They're like little charms. So we're going to try and incorporate those. I have these. These are actually called daisy spacers, but sometimes I use them as bead caps as well. I don't know if you can see them. They're like a little daisy, and these are a 4mm. They're tiny. And I love the little ones, I really do. I use them in a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. Then I have this kind, and it's more of a bell shape bead cap. So I'm using a few of those. Then I have these beads, which have etched flowers and leaves on them like a tree branch, which is not going to show up. There may be there, I don't know. And then I have chain, and this is just chain from Michael's bead landing chain. With the chain, you need it to be the holes to be big enough to be able to fit your loop that you're going to make through it, or a jump ring through it. And we didn't go into jump rings, so I'm going to get out those, few of those. I probably will not use many of these because jump rings, like a simple loop, are not going to be as secure. Okay, these are going to be 5mm. I have 5, 6, and 7 here. 5 being the smaller one. This is a 5mm silver plated copper jump ring. And a jump ring is basically a ring that you can open and close. If I can find the opening on camera. Probably not. And like with the simple, sorry about that. Like with the simple loop, the opening is at the top. The best thing to do is cover as much space as you can, if you can, and you twist backwards and forwards, and it opens the jump ring. I don't know if you can see that. So that you can put other things onto it, and then you close it and you wiggle it back and forth till you, till you hear a snap. There, we heard a snap. I'm not real happy with that one, but anyway. That's what you do. You wiggle it back and forth till you hear a snap. So those are jump rings. But like I said, I probably will not be using many of them. They come in different sizes. That's a 5mm. 6mm would be a little larger. And 7mm, larger than that. When I'm doing charms and things, I don't like the jump ring to be the focus, so I like to use as small a one as I can to fit through the holes in the chain or whatever, or the other loop that you've made on a bead or something. Sometimes you want it just to add a little more length to it, to the charm, and that's fine. Alright, so let me get a piece of wire. And I just try and, by running my fingers along, I'm doing two things. I'm heating it a little bit, but I'm also straightening it a little bit. And I tend to cut off about 3 inches, maybe only like 2.5 for this one, because I'm only using one bead. And honestly, I just eyeball it. Now, also, you're supposed to cut it so that you have a flush cut, so by using the flat edge of your pliers on either end. But I'm not going to worry about that because I know both ends are going to be snipped off, and I'll flush cut them then. Alright, so what I'm going to do is try a few of these. I think that looks pretty on the bottom, so I'm going to put one on the top as well. And what I'm doing is I'm just trying to see about how much space I need on either side of the bead. I'm trying to put it in the middle, and so I know about where to bend the wire, and I'm going to bend it right here. I'm going to take the bead off for now because it's easier for me to make a loop. So this is what we did in the other video. You're going to come in over the plier, push it down as far as it can go, turn your wrist towards you. There you have a lollipop, right? Okay. Now I'm going to, here's the tricky part. When you're doing a wrap loop, open the loop like you would a jump ring towards you. I am going to attach this to the bottom of my chain. Okay, and let that dangle. Now I'm going to get my, bent nose pliers. I'm going to close the loop, hold it with my bent nose because they're easier to hold a small area, and I am going to then wrap this closed. And I have a little problem sometimes with keeping the wire going straight. You want the wraps to be next to each other and as tight as possible. And I'm only going to do 2 wraps because I don't really want to add too much length right at this particular point. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put on a bead cap, the bead, and another bead cap. And before I snip that off, I'm going to do the other end. Okay, alright, so we're going to do the other end. Remember I said I like to put the tip of the pliers up against the bead. Oops, I had it too tippy. Too much of it. I had it coming off the tip. So yeah, enough to be able to hold the wire. Bend it over so you have an angle like that on your chain nose. Get your round nose. You know, I saw an interesting set of pliers. Anyway, come back over the plier. Twist your wrist toward you. Sorry guys. Bend it around. Make your lollipop. Which is not a really good lollipop there. Okay, now what am I going to do here? Am I going to hang something else off of this? Yes, I am. But I'm going to go ahead and finish this because I can wrap the next item right onto this closed loop. So I'm going to do another closed loop. Let me get my pliers straight here. Go around once. And I am pulling the wire. Oops. I'm pulling the wire. This one I'm going to have to go 3 because you want it to be a tight fit. Otherwise your bead is sliding all around. And that's pretty tight. So I have like 2.5 wraps on that one. You also want to try and be consistent. Now I'm going to snip off this piece without shooting anybody in the eye. And I actually like to use my bent nose pliers to come in and try and get this little piece of wire, which is really hard to see behind the camera. And I go around like this. But I just find they're easier to go in. Now I still have this piece of wire up here. I'm going to come back to it. Oops. And I'm going to snip it. And I'm going to push that in. You want that piece so that it's flush and will not snag on anybody's clothing or anything. So you always feel with your fingers to make sure that it's flush. So this is what I have so far. I've got my latch. I have a silver bead up here, wire wrapped onto this pretty sparkly glass bead, which was gifted to me by Christy Barry, actually. And then I have this beautiful bead that I got at Joann's, which is sort of clear and white inside, clear outside with pink floral. And I have a closed loop at the bottom that I need to attach something to, because that looks a little weird, huh? Just having a loop hanging down there. Let me get some of these little bits of wire out of the way. Don't want them to get mixed in with stuff. Okay. So then I'm going to attach this, and I've already put on a drop. This is called a drop bead because it has the hole still going through the center of the bead, but it drops, it gets smaller top to bottom. There are other drops that are called, and sometimes it's called a teardrop. There are other drops that are called a briolette, similar shape, usually a little flatter, and they have the wire going through here, and we're not going to get into that in today's little mini tutorial. Okay, so I'm going to start making a little wrapped loop here. I'm going to push it over my plier just to leave a little room there. Oops. Try to see it. See, I'm at the marker on my pliers, I think. A little more. Okay, there we go. We're going to bring it over. Turn your wrist. Make the loop. Come under the plier and wrap it over the wire. I don't know if you can see that or not there. Okay, now I'm going to let go of that. Bring in my chain nose. And I am going to open that up a little bit. And I am going to take my other wrapped loop, oops, and I can see, slide it on so that it's at the top of the loop. I'm going to get my little bent nose pliers, or you can use chain nose. Close that loop, just pushing it back. And now I'm going to get my chain nose and wire wrap that one closed. Now, one thing I will say, this chain, the links are what's called open links. What does that mean? It means you can twist them open like a jump ring. So the chain itself is not totally secure. And most chains you get in like a Michael's, or a craft store, a Michael's, AC Moore, Joann's, will be open link chains unless they specifically say closed links. Closed links you have to cut if you want to remove links of the chain. Did I get that? Not quite. Hello, Callie. My kitty came to see us. So there you have it. There is the bottom dangle of this particular chain. So let's see how long this is. This is going to be about 6.5 inches long when I'm done. And this part here is going to get loaded up with beads. And I'm going to start down here. Now, one thing I learned by watching actually Nurse Tara 04, and this is a wonderful idea, she puts smaller beads at the bottom and at the top because it's just easier to get them in the spaces, if you will. So I will put one or two smaller ones at the bottom, then they're going to get a little bigger, and then smaller at the top, and that makes it chunky in the middle, if you will. So that's the style I'm going to do today. I will put a few on and come back and show you, and then I'll come back and show it to you finished. I am not going to bore you with all the design things because I play around with it so much and change my mind so much. But you can see I have started to lay some things out. Like I have a little crystal with a bead cap. I have another one of those pretty pink beads that Christy gave me with 2 bead caps, one on either end on a head pin. I pulled these out. I haven't decided if I'm using them yet. I pulled some of these bright fuchsia colored they're Chinese crystals out, and some peridot little what do you call those, bicones. These are some black gemstone beads and some white crystals and one of those rondelles. I have some more of these little flower things. I have to figure out where I'm going to put them. I found these matte kind of gray, which I like, and I put a clear Chinese crystal and the different little star-shaped bead caps. I don't know if you can see. So it's all choice. And then I have these with the leaves, these metal beads. I have more of an opaque green bicone on top of those, and some bead caps. So those are the kinds of things I'm looking at using, but the order of them will change as I go. So I'm at 20 minutes already. I'm going to stop, and the next one I'll come back and show the finished product. Talk to you soon. Bye.